off this video, I'm going to be trying something that I haven't really seen on YouTube before. I'm going to try to get underwater footage of peacock bass biting a lure while they're on beds. I've seen this with largemouth and other species, but I haven't seen peacock. The spawning season is winding down, so hopefully I can do this within a close time frame so I can actually do it. Unfortunately, I only have one GoPro, so I'm filming on my phone, but I wanted to show exactly what I'm going to be using to do this. Okay, I spent a little bit of time this morning designing exactly what this is. It doesn't look good, it doesn't look pretty, but it will do the trick hopefully. So essentially it's a little stand for the GoPro where I mounted it with weights on the bottom, and it will essentially, I will hook up a separate rod to this little loop knot at the top and be able to lower this guy directly onto the bedding area and see which direction it's facing, and hopefully be able to do that, not scare away the fish, or if I scare them away they'll come back, and then hopefully catch it on video. Okay, so that was really awkward. I got in the elevator with that monstrosity of a GoPro setup and 2 fishing rods. I live in a high rise. People don't normally have fishing rods, so I got some weird looks. I'm about to head towards the spot, and hopefully I can try to catch something. I have class today, so I'm trying to get this done prior to that. Just arrived at the spot. I'm going to try to get my GoPro set up, and we'll see how this looks and try it out. So it's dangling, and it's sitting upright. I'm gonna try to put this in place and we'll see how it works. So although the angle wasn't very good in this shot, I wanted to include it because these 2 fish that were on this little area were the largest that I had seen that day. Unfortunately, they weren't on a bed, so right after I had seen them, I made 1 cast and they decided to leave. I estimated that fish to be a little under 5, that first one, and the smaller one to be like a 2-pounder. This is the first bed that I actually found, and these fish showed some good signs of aggression. And as I was saying in my last video, if a fish is aggressive at first, most likely I will be able to catch it on a few more casts. And as you can see, when I throw that X-Wrap, the fish kind of comes up and looks at it, and you can tell he doesn't want to eat it, but he doesn't want it anywhere near his nest. And if you can listen in the background, you will hear the common sound of the jerkbait kind of rattling along, and that just irritates them. So again, right at this point, you can see the fish come up and try to mouth the bait, and it's just obviously trying to scare that bait fish essentially away from that area of its nest. And I had at this point found essentially a sweet spot. That particular direction, that male would get super aggressive each time. This had been my first attempt to get underwater footage of these fish, and I noticed that they'd become incredibly inquisitive of the camera, oftentimes coming up and looking at it, but at the same time, it would make them a little bit more shy, and it would take a little longer for them to strike a lure. And despite what it looks like, it's really hard to get actual camera footage of a strike, where a lot of times they will run out of the frame of the camera just to hit a lure and then just go back in. So it's really hard to get that actual eat on camera. Right here, you're going to see that fish on the right turn left, and it runs down and grabs my bait. as soon as it sees it come from that sweet spot onto its bed.
Just got the male off the bed. Hopefully you guys saw that on camera. Hopefully he can back out, but he crushed it. Sending that guy home. Okay, so I just caught the little male off the bed. I'm gonna try to catch the female right now. That usually happens with these peacocks.
So like I was mentioning, as soon as the male is caught off the bed, the female takes over the spot and gets a lot more aggressive, as well as a bunch of other fish begin to get curious about the situation. You can see that Midas cichlid kind of glowing in the background. So you can see that these Midas cichlid decide to encroach a little too close to the bed for what the female decides she likes, so she goes over, scares them off. You can tell that she's taken a bigger role in protecting the bedding location since the beginning of the video, where she was normally just in the back, but once the male was gone, she was the one in charge of protecting their little rock. So right here, the camera decided to switch its angle and the water got significantly murkier. But this is the same bed with the same female that I had just got the male off of. At this point, she's gotten much more aggressive. Before anyone says anything, yes, that is a Texas rigged floating jerkbait. And for a little context, I only had 2 lures that would work for peacock bass, one of which was a saltwater floating Yozuri that only dove about half a foot. These fish showed no sign of aggression toward a top of the water column bait, so I had to get creative. I wouldn't recommend this to anyone because the action is horrible, but when it was properly placed on a bed, these aggressive fish would hit it.
Finally caught it after forever. Let's get her off the hook. Easily the most aggressive fish I think I have ever seen. It bit my bait 4 or 5 times, hit it another 20 times, finally hooked it. Goodbye, mama. Wow.
At this point, I had found bed number 2. So this one also had 2 aggressive fish on it, and it took me a lot longer to set up the camera because the incline was significantly steeper. So right here is that patented Texas rig jerkbait doing its thing, and the fish reacting to it. Look at that action, it's fantastic. Right here, you'll see this fish absolutely slam the jerkbait. Unfortunately, with the Texas rig jerkbait, the hookups aren't very good. So these fish continued on, getting more and more angry at everything that swam near their nest until eventually I was able to put another solid cast in there. if you listen closely, you can hear the jerkbait hit the water, and then this fish runs out of the frame of the camera, and you can see by the shadows and the splashing and hear all the sounds. That fish came up and ate the jerkbait, and I actually managed to catch it. Unfortunately, ran out of the frame.
All right, this is fish number 4. Just another one off the bed. And then try to get the other one, adjust the camera a little bit.
When I'm above the water, I have no idea what the angle of the camera looks like under the water, so I decided to adjust it thinking I would make it better, but actually made it worse. Fortunately for me, this fish got extra aggressive. Every single cast I threw in there, you can see it whacking away at the bait, and it only took 2.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful peacock right off the bed. Just straight, super pretty colors. Demolished it too. Fish number 5, straight off the bed. Gonna send this guy home. Goodbye, mama. Okay, I just made it back to my car. I'm totally sunburnt, and it was one of the weirdest and hardest days of fishing, but it worked out. So every time I put the camera on the bed, the fish were finicky for a while until eventually they would get super aggressive. There was one fish that hit my bait literally every single time. I lost the lure when it hit, and it somehow didn't get hooked. I got the lure back. I still have it now, but I thought it was gonna be in the fish, and I was kind of upset with that. But he ended up coming back and eating again. So it's hard to get him to bite artificials, except in this video you're gonna see that it wasn't hard today. They would hit it every time, and this is what I was explaining in my last few videos. But they're not trying to eat it necessarily, they're just trying to get it away from their bed. I think there's some really cool footage on here. Hopefully you guys like it.